Coming up on Mountain News at 6, only 6 legislative days remain for this year's General Assembly. Several high-profile bills remain up in the air with time running out. And one family is still searching for answers 15 years after a woman disappeared in Pikeville.
Plus, we are soggy to start the weekend, timing out those rain chances as Mountain News at 6 starts now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 6.
A new 2-year state budget and legislation dealing with everything from education to self-driving cars still yet to be resolved in this year's legislative session. Kentucky lawmakers say they are close to finalizing a new budget. Other controversial issues may have a rough time finding support in the final days and hours. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more from Frankfort.
Of the hundreds of bills filed, only 6 have become law, and 6 of 60 days remain in this year's legislative session.
You know, at this point, nothing's ever dead until April the 15th.
Both House and Senate members are still trying to iron out a budget.
The hope would be that we would have a document to be voted on by the conference committee by Monday or Tuesday.
A bill dealing with preventing divisive concepts on college campuses called the DEI bill is still working through the process. Senate President Robert Stiver says that issue could end up in a conference committee. The Kentucky Department of Education has named who they want their next education commissioner to be, but that appointment must be approved by the Kentucky State Senate. The nominee is Dr. Robbie Fletcher.
From what I know so far, I'm probably going to be a no vote if his confirmation resolution comes to the floor. But it's still preliminary. My mind could be changed. We've got to go through all the due diligence that we do on every gubernatorial appointee.
Thayer also says he does expect to vote next week on a bill regulating self-driving cars. It's been passed over several times in the Senate after passing the House.
It's a good bill. I'm for it, and we're going to try to pass it next week.
Thayer also says he does not see support for bills reducing restrictions on abortion or adding conditions for medical marijuana, which will become legal next year. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
So lots to consider over the next few days. The final day of the session is Monday, April 15th. Their work must be done by law at midnight that night. A bill to help children who stutter is moving forward. The full House passed Senate Bill 111. It would require health insurers to cover speech therapy. Former Kentucky basketball player Michael Kidd-Gilchrist testified in support of that bill earlier this month. The House made a change to the bill, so it now heads back to the Senate. If approved there, it would go on to the governor. 2 constitutional amendments will officially be on the November ballot. House Bill 2 would let voters decide whether lawmakers could divert tax money to private schools. Senate Bill 143 could add language to the Constitution banning non-citizens from voting. Secretary of State Michael Adams signed both measures to be added to the ballot. A Johnson County man is behind bars after police say he tried to pull a child off a bicycle in an attempt to steal it. After law enforcement arrived at the scene, the arrest citation says 27-year-old Brian Bunker left the area. Police were eventually able to find where he was and arrest him. He was taken to the Big Sandy Regional Detention Center. This month marks 15 years since Crystal Brandham Hall disappeared from her Pikeville apartment, and her family is still searching for answers. WYMT's Buddy Forbes spoke to her grandmother, who is looking for signs.
God bless her.
It's hard when you got somebody been missing. And like I said, she's been missing now for 15 years.
This is my Crystal.
Crystal Brandham Hall disappeared from an apartment on Pikeville's Kentucky Avenue in March 2009, leaving behind her purse, coat, and 15 years of unanswered questions.
Not knowing is so hard on a person.
Taking care of her brother and sister.
The case received few tips over the years.
I'd go every place I heard of, search to see if I could find her. But it was just rumors that people would tell, you know.
As her 3 children grew up without her, with her grandmother waiting for the day she would walk through the door.
I've even went back and people walking on the road and just to look for a second time to make sure it wasn't my grandbaby.
That grandbaby will be 40 next month and is now a grandmother herself.
Wouldn't that be nice if she could see her own grandson?
But no new updates have been provided to the family as the case sits cold.
Nothing, and no one says anything. And I used to call all the time.
Her beautiful red hair.
So for now, they just reflect on photos and rely on prayers.
Well, I pray one day we will find out, that God will let us know something, you know.
Fixed them up.
Keeping hope
Put 'em up.
and her name alive.
I will keep on searching for as long as I can.
In Pike County, Buddy Forbes, WYMT Mountain News.
Myrtle is now 80 years old, and she says she wants to find answers while she is still living. If you have any information about the disappearance of Crystal Brandham Hall, you can contact KSP Post 9 at 606-433-7711. Crews in Wayne County, Kentucky are investigating the cause of a fire that broke out early this morning. The Monticello Fire Department says it happened on Furnace Mountain. That fire was contained and no further details have been released.
Rain chances are set to increase as we go into this evening. Also tonight, up on First Alert Pinpoint Doppler, we are tracking a few light showers in the Big Sandy Valley from Martin County pushing into Lawrence County, also moving into Wayne County, West Virginia, and same story close to the Kentucky and Tennessee border for Bell County, also Whitley County, moving into portions of Campbell and Claiborne County at this hour as well. But notice as we zoom out, there is more rain on the way, some widespread showers over Tennessee, and this moisture is moving into our direction as we go through late Friday, also early tomorrow morning. Those current temperatures are mild, most of us in the upper 60s to lower 70s. And be sure to enjoy the warm weather because we are tracking some big changes as we go into this weekend. Lows not that bad as you wake up in the morning in the upper 40s to lower 50s, but another freeze is on the way to wake up on Sunday as lows are back in the middle to upper 20s. More details on that weekend forecast, plus another system by early next week coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Cameron, thanks. Well, the Kentucky basketball program is a huge topic of conversation today after last night's loss to Oakland in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So we posted a web poll. We are asking what should be the next step for the basketball program. About 70% of you right now say there should be a head coaching change, while 15% say there should just be a change in coaching style. Nearly 9% say no changes should be made, and 6% say the contract for Coach Cal should be reworked. Well, even though Kentucky has been eliminated from March Madness, the tournament continues on. There are still many college basketball fans that are excited about seeing the shock from brackets busted all over the country. However, 3 fans in Pittsburgh still felt confident enough to make their Final Four predictions.
I think Iowa State's going to make a crazy run for it. I think they're going to go deep right now. I even see them winning the tournament overall, honestly. I'm looking for Houston, Kansas in the Final Four there. I think that's a good matchup. Kansas has got to get tough.
I'm looking at Arizona right now. Arizona and Iowa State Final Four. That's what I want.
Well, we'll see. The state of Kentucky did have one team left in the men's bracket coming into today. Western Kentucky University made its first appearance in the Big Dance since 2013. Unfortunately, they also, like the other Kentucky teams, fell. They lost to Marquette 87-69. By the time it's done, millions will be spent in bets on the NCAA tournament, and this March marked the first time Kentuckians could legally place bets. But there's also been an increase in calls seeking help for problem gambling. Jessica Umbro talked to the Kentucky Council on Problem Gambling about concerns during March Madness.
We've seen much more awareness that gambling can be an addictive behavior, that people are recognizing that their gambling activity may be out of control.
Michael Stone, the executive director of the Kentucky Council on Problem Gambling, says the men's and women's NCAA tournaments are the second biggest sports betting events next to the Super Bowl. But betting around the tournaments is often more prevalent.
Every family, every office, every business seems to have some kind of a pool.
Stone says it's important to recognize past stigmas about gambling, especially those who fall victim to its addiction.
Medical science has been able to pinpoint that gambling has a root in one's own biological chemistry.
Stone says calls seeking help for gambling doubled between August 2023 and October 2023, after the first full month of legalized sports betting in Kentucky. But he says it's in part due to an increased awareness about resources available to those struggling.
It's that the messaging and the awareness that is accompanying all of the advertising and social media and the marketing now includes a disclaimer to gamble responsibly.
Jessica Umbro, WKYT.
If you or someone you know has a problem with gambling, there are resources out there. You can call or text 1-800-GAMBLER or visit kygamblinghelp.org.
Well, we are tracking some wet weather as we go into tonight. Then we turn cold. Your forecast after this break. Plus,
one nonprofit in Clay County is doing what they can to ensure kids do not have to sleep on the floor.